Hello, lovely ladies. This is Claudia from Nourished by Claudia, and I'm here tonight with the amazing Chlo. She's one of the most vital and energetic and fun people on social media at the moment, speaking about hypothalamic amenorrhea. And she's not only that, because she has her own small business. She's super young. She went through disorder eating behaviors, hypothalamic amenorrhea recovery. So she has done a lot, and she's here tonight to share her stories and answer all your questions. So Chlo, welcome. I'm so thrilled that we're going to have this conversation tonight.
Thank you so much. This is so exciting. And what a lovely intro. When you say energetic and things, I'm sure some of my family might be like, sorry, what? Like, the same person? But we'll go with it.
Yeah, you just keep the energetic bit. You just keep the compliment. So Let me start by asking you one of my favorite questions. So tell us, what's your favorite breakfast?
Oh my, okay, it's the same every single day. So vegan protein, mix it up, but like, so it's quite thick. And then I cook up a separate bowl of oats and make that quite thick. Then I layer the protein mix on top. And then I add like all the berries, peanut butter, granola, chia seeds, nuts, all on top of that.
That sounds so amazing and so incredibly indulgent. Beautiful.
If I'm feeling extra bougie, I might add an apple as well.
And let me ask you, is that kind of breakfast that you used to have also when you were trying to recover from hypothalamic amenorrhea, or is that something new?
Yeah, that was. Introducing oats to my diet was the scariest thing I've ever done, and I have not looked back since.
Fantastic. So why don't you dive deep into that and you share with us what happened in your life and why you're in the HA space at the moment, and you're so vocal about disorder eating behaviors, eating disorders, and and how to get your period back. What happened to you?
So it was all quite a very gradual process for me. It wasn't a huge like 1 minute I'm in, next minute 1 minute I'm out, next minute I'm in. It was, and I think that's quite common, right? There's lots of like people get into fitness, and that was kind of my journey. I just slowly got into fitness. I've definitely I've grown up around diet culture. Like a lot of us have. Diets were quite heavy in our house, and I just ended up getting into fitness to it sounds quite sad, but actually to be good enough for a guy. But in realism, like it was really like to be slim, to try to fit in, to be desirable. Yeah. So I got into fitness, I started running, I absolutely loved it, and that became my like therapy, if you like, when you're going through like a teenage dramas. And then I slowly got into gym classes, and I found protein shakes, and I found chicken breasts, and I realized that if I went to bed hungry, well, maybe that's quite a good thing. And I slowly started to pick up all of these little habits that when you pull them apart, so for example, if I went to bed hungry after coming back from a gym class, and I'd eaten my dinner and I'd had some dessert, and then I went to bed hungry, and you know, it wasn't starving, but it was just because I've had a busy day and it's too late and blah, blah, blah. When you look at that as a whole, if that happens maybe once every so often, it's not a big deal, really. It can happen. But the problem is all of these little tiny habits that I picked up along the way were all starting to build on top of each other. So I started to chase the hunger before bed. I started to kind of trophy a specific diet of restriction. If someone was eating chocolate, I would take pride in saying, no, I don't eat that. And it became actually quite, what I found, looking back, it was quite a stuck up way of thinking, in the sense of like an arrogant way of thinking. Is actually, I don't think that I was doing anything for my health, even though that's what I would have told everyone. I think it was a way of A, being able to control my life, feeling like I had some sense of control, but also B, to try to become someone. I think I felt in school, I had a great group of friends and I really enjoyed school, but I always wished I had that thing. So as soon as the fit girl came along, I was jumping on that, and I was like, yes, that's me, that's her. So I did everything you could possibly think of, from, you know, the laxative teas, the 10-minute ab workouts just before bed. I would be getting up in the morning, only having protein shakes, having coffee to get me through the day. And unfortunately, like I said earlier, all of these habits just built up, that it got to the stage that I was training twice a day, 7 days a week. I was having to nap twice a day. I was drinking like 6 coffees a day. I was eating chicken breasts like 3-4 times a day, and the other meals would have had just a protein shake. I had horrendous constipation, and my mood was embarrassing looking back.
I can imagine.
Yeah, but all of that was masked with, she's the fit one, so maybe this is just how I live my life. And I was in so much denial that actually I had something wrong. And 2, I was on the pill. So I actually had no idea that there was a greater reason. And it was only when eventually me and my boyfriend, like childhood sweetheart, we'd been together on and off for like 8 years. And from when I was like 13 to 21, something like that. So that's a huge chunk of time. That it was only then that I decided, when we split up, I decided to come off the pill. And that's when it all, like how I'd spent the past like 3-4 years of my life, all started to unravel before me. And that's when I was like, oh, why don't I have a period then? So I've started to research into it a little bit more. And actually, when about 3 years ago, when I was going into this, I knew nothing, and there was no one talking about it. Or they may have been, but not like these sorts of communities or anything like that I knew of. I would be searching YouTube, I would be searching Google, and there was just nothing, only about female athletes, and nothing about, I just work out and I just eat healthy. Why is there nothing? And why is, like, there was no case study, do you know what I mean, about just a normal girl that just didn't feel good enough and just wanted to change herself. Why was I losing my period when I wasn't an athlete?
I remember that when I went through recovery 10 years ago, I went to see a dietitian and I said, look, I have osteopenia. I'm undernourishing myself. I don't have a menstrual cycle, and I'm running every single day. And this dietitian that she used to work with only athletes, she sent me away because she said, well, but you are not an athlete, so I really don't know how to work with you. And she sent me to a GP that diagnosed me with PCOS. So no one was really talking about us losing our menstrual cycle because we decided to fit into a messed up society, basically, because that's what it was. And so what really triggered your recovery journey? Was just getting off of the pill and not seeing a menstrual cycle, or was there anything else?
I like to say yes, that's what triggered my recovery. But I actually, that summer, I then started going to the GP and was just told every time I went, come back in a couple of months, come back in a couple of months. Because the GP wasn't worried, I wasn't really worried. And I'd just come out of like a long-term relationship and a breakup, and fitness was the one thing that I could always rely on. And I actually went a lot deeper and a lot, what I would say, worse into disordered eating for about a 6-month period. And then I eventually stormed into the doctor's crying, like into my doctor's appointment, of like, please don't turn me away. I know this isn't right. I said, I'd like to be referred to see a gynecologist. So they did. They found nothing. She diagnosed me with PCOS, and she said, but I'm just going to get this checked with someone above me. Who just turned out was in the office just over the corridor. He was like, yeah, no, she doesn't have PCOS. So then they just said, we don't know, basically. So
oh, wow.
It was fast. I was a bit like, oh, okay. And then it was summer, and I just partied loads and didn't really think too much about it. Then I came to Australia traveling, and again, didn't think too much of it. But in that space, I had gained quite a bit of weight, and I actually had one period. But because I then had my period, I was like, oh my God, okay, I've gained weight and I've got my period. So that means I can lose loads of weight now.
Yeah, you made the connection. All righty.
Yeah, but that, because I had my period, I thought, okay, cool, it's back. That means I can lose loads of weight again. So I just went straight, like as soon as I got back from Australia, I was like, I got down to one of the smallest I've been. And I had so much anxiety around food. I could not miss a workout. If a friend asked me for coffee, I'd say, yeah, let's get takeaway, go for a walk. It was so much in my own mind that looking back, I feel stressed thinking about it because I know what it's. I would go on a night out, for example, with my friends. I would only drink a certain drink that was the lowest in calories, but would still get me drunk. I wouldn't eat, so it would mean I got drunk quicker, so I could reduce the calories. Like there was so, and then in the morning, I would get up and go for no matter how hungover I was getting up and going for a walk, and I was hitting like 10, 12, 15,000 steps way before breakfast because I had to burn off those calories.
And I'm sure that everyone was praising you because you are doing that. So instead of staying home and having a hangover and having a massive breakfast, she's going for a run. She's amazing.
I was the dedicated one. I was like so driven. I was so focused when actually like no one. I still like have conversations with my best friend who knows me the very best out of anyone, and we still have conversations that she would have no idea was going through my head. And it was so it was actually 2 years after coming off the pill, so last January, that's when I actually started to take it seriously. That's when I thought.
And when you decided to take it seriously, what did you do? Did you increase the food intake and decrease the amount of exercise all of a sudden, cold turkey? Or did you take it gradually? What did you do?
So I did try to really dial it back, even when I wasn't, so in that period of time where I really dived into like fitness again, I covered up my training I swapped out HIIT and put in gymnastics. So I started to learn how to do handstands and stuff like that. But even though to everyone else that looked great and that was like, oh cool, like yeah. And I would say to people, I'm not doing HIIT because I'm trying to get my period back. I became like the victim of no period. And because I knew in my head how many calories less I'm probably going to be burning in a gymnastics than a HIIT, you'd just find me walking loads. I'd just be walking, or I would be secretly under eating. So I would eat loads in front of people, but then I wouldn't eat for the rest of the day, for example. And then eventually, so that was kind of like, from coming off the pill, I had tried to recover. So I tried to dial back my workouts. I tried to increase my food. I would talk constantly about how much nut butter I ate. I talk constantly about, guys, I need to eat more. And instead of becoming the fit one that was able to do loads of burpees, I became the fit one with disordered hormones. So that was the label I attached to myself.
Right.
So when we came into, I then found a professional to work with, and I had some more blood tests done with my doctor that came back that my kidneys were a little bit funky, and we've got history of kidney problems in the family. There was, I can't really remember what it was, and that is related to hypothalamic amenorrhea, right? You can have like some
hypokalemia and also problem with the kidney. So that can happen.
And that was the time that my mum said, because it scared her because my granddad's got something with kidneys, mum's like, right, we've got to get this sorted. So it was last January that I actually got the support from my family, because again, like you think like my family have always kind of been in diet culture. For me to say, oh, I need to do less exercise and eat more calories and gain some weight, that's what? Like that doesn't even make sense. And then for people, so for me to say, oh, I'm not, I need to do less exercise, to someone like my mum, for example, that's just weird. So it was only when the kidney thing that I actually got the support from like my mum that was like, right, let's go see a professional. So that's when I booked in to get my bloods looked at by a sports dietitian, who came back and said, your doctors have been telling you that your bloods are fine. They're not. You have literally like no estrogen. So that's when I dived straight into recovery. But I have to say, I don't think I would be able to I don't think I would have recovered so fast if it wasn't for lockdown, because I was suddenly here at home all the time, and it made no difference what I looked like. The whole world was different. The whole world was changing. So it's like, okay, I can change now because everyone else around me is changing. So that's when
Yes.
I realized. So
And I
sorry,
heard that before.
that was a real long-winded way of trying to
No,
answer.
not at all. And I love, honestly, listening to stories and stories of people that have recovered. I think that your story is gonna help so many women. It's gonna support so many women. So please feel free to share as much as you can and want. But my question now is so you started gaining weight because you decided to eat more, you were in lockdown, you finally had the support from all your family, and good on you because you decided to share your story, because lots of women, they go through HA without telling anyone what is going on. And maybe that's what happened to you like 5 years ago or a few years back. So when you noticed that your body was changing and you started putting on weight, how did you feel?
So to start with, when I sat down and I could feel my bum either side of me, that's the first memory that I have of really gaining weight. I love that. I was like, that's fine. I was like, Christ, I've never had this before. I was like, what is this? And I would actually find myself like sitting here at my desk working and like grabbing hold of it and being like, hello. So that side of thing was fine. Then I started to notice that my jeans didn't fit anymore, but I still had I would have compliments in other ways that would, I guess I was still very attached to other people's opinions rather than myself at the start. So the fact that my bum had got bigger, for example, and I looked fuller, so that's quite a trendy way to look at the minute. So I was getting compliments on that. So I'm like, okay, yeah, I could do this. And then in lockdown, when that was that was controlled weight gain, I would say. I was very like, okay, we can gain some, but you be careful what you're eating.
Yeah.
Oh, no, okay, dial that back. But then when I went into lockdown and I really just went for it, really, I was wearing a lot of baggy clothes, obviously working from home. So I was wearing leggings, baggy jumpers and stuff. So I don't actually know if I can't remember a time that I saw it happening. I just remember this one time that I looked in the mirror and I was really inflamed. And I looked at my stomach and I was like, okay, this is different. And that was quite overwhelming. But I knew the one thing I always tell myself and what I always try to say on Instagram is, if you've been in as the fit one and been in diet culture for so long, as awful as losing your period is and having these disordered thoughts, it's also a bit of a blessing, right? Because if you ever get to the stage that you feel so awful about yourself, don't worry, you know how to do it. And that's what I had to keep telling myself, of like, get your period back. Yep, you feel uncomfortable, but Chloe, you haven't just forgotten all the knowledge that you spent past 4 years obsessing over. Like, if life gets really, really that bad because of how you look and because of your weight gain, you know what to do.
Yeah,
And
it's like having a safety net.
Yeah, and the thing is like, everyone is so worried about, overshooting it too much and blah blah blah. And a lot of this overshooting isn't, in my experience, it wasn't fat that I was overshooting or like loads of calories. You're not going to wake up one day and suddenly be 30 stone. That's not how it works. And I tried to remind myself of, Chloe, you know how long it can take to lose weight. Well, it's going to take just as long, if not longer, to gain weight. So especially as I'm trying to restore, right? So it's like my body's naturally going to start using that energy. So the weight gain isn't, I personally don't, you obviously notice it, but you just keep reminding yourself, this is because this is for a bigger picture. I've got a goal here. I know I need to get healthy. If when I'm healthy and I've got a regular cycle, I decide that I hate myself and that I'm only happy and I can only live my life a certain size, we'll cross that bridge when it comes to it. But what's the point in worrying about something that's might not even happen 6 months down the line, when right now I need to get my period back?
Beautifully said. I'm loving every single word that is coming out of your mouth. Let me ask you, how long did it take you to get your period back?
So
From the moment that you really decided to work on it, I
Really
mean.
decided. It was end of March, so coming up to a year. End of March, I had all my bloods tested, and then I got my period in the July.
So it was 30 months, no, how many months then? 7 months?
No,
4
no,
months?
no. Yeah, about 3-4 months.
Oh, you've been very quick. Good on you. So let me
Yeah,
ask.
I think that, sorry, just to jump in, I think that was because I'd spent 2 years, I like to say that I was flirting with the
Digging
idea.
in. Yeah. And did you keep track of your caloric intake, or you just went for the food?
It's difficult. I'm from a history of tracking.
Yeah.
So tracking is something that I could maybe do for a few days, but as soon as I'm stressed, I'll become obsessed with it. So I have to be really careful with that. So when I was recovering, I knew that a potential trigger to see how much I was eating was going to trigger me to restrict again. So it would depend. A lot of the time I would just follow simple rules, which would be never wait, as soon as you wake up, eat something and don't train fasted. Eat every 2 to 3 hours and include a carbohydrate at every single meal. Carbs were my like fear food. So once that was the foundation, but then sometimes I would be in such a good place that I would be like, yeah, I can do this, I can take anything. And then sometimes I would track that just to see how much I was eating. And if I was in a good place, that wouldn't affect me. And then I would just like check and just be like, okay, cool, I'm not under eating, and got rid of it. After I then had 2 periods, I didn't realize, but my restrictive thoughts had come way back in, that I wasn't tracking. But again, I just got cocky in the sense of like, okay, I'm not, I've got my period back, now I can do what I want. And I tracked one day and I was like way under, and I actually didn't get my period back I then lost it again for 2 months. So the thing with tracking for me is if I do it consistently, I get obsessed. But for me, I do think it's a good, like I still have the app on my phone just because I know that if I have a week where I'm exhausted, it's quite beneficial for me just to put it in, just to see if I'm actually eating enough. And I know if something's under, I don't know, a certain number, I know I'm like, oh, okay, eat a little bit more then.
Okay, so let me ask you, because that's something that I normally do with my clients, and I tell them, please just delete the calorie trackers, the fitness trackers. And if you're worrying that you're not eating enough food, just fill in 3 days worth of a diet diary, send it to me so I can do the homework for you. So why would you consider like finding a professional that does that for you so you can just stop tracking the calories?
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, I think the tracking the calories, I'm not really looking at the calories, if you know what I mean. I'm really looking at the types of food like that I'm fueling. I still know that actually, like a year on, I still know that I'm battling with, don't get me wrong, my life has drastically improved. And if anyone's on the fence about recovering or not, recover, because you don't just get your period back, you get your whole life back. But I know that I still have those times where I have to battle with those. And I think sometimes having the app on my phone is that comfort blanket. So 100%, yeah. If someone's thinking about getting coaching, I'd 100% say, I also coach, and I say to everyone, like, just send me, don't worry. And it is very ironic that it's the same with when I look back as a PT, right? Everything that I was telling everyone else to do doesn't mean that I wasn't struggling to do it myself. And I know that sometimes those voices get too much for me, that they win, or I delete the app. And then sometimes if I'm stressed or whatever, I'm just like, I just need peace of mind that that's not the reason why I'm stressed.
Yeah, no, fair enough. And look, I recovered many years ago, but I always say that I am constantly in recovery because I still get the disordered thoughts. I just decide every single day to not act on them. But I think that it's a part of me that will never leave me completely, especially because I deal with women that suffer from hypothalamic amenorrhea every single day. So it's a constant reminder. But as long as I don't act on the thought, that's absolutely fine with me. And I'm happy to keep working on recovery until the end of the day.
Yeah, and I think that's what I'm working on, right? Is like not acting on it. But I'm exactly the same as you. I get a lot of messages on Instagram, and I'm an empath. I don't just read a message, shut it down, and leave. I read a message, take on everyone's thoughts, go for a walk, and think about them constantly. That I think that, and I never ever stop. I honestly see this vision. I see huge empire talking about this. That I know that while I'm growing this, I also think it's beneficial to be constantly triggered, because I'm constantly challenging those thoughts, and sometimes those thoughts.
Absolutely. And may I ask you, how did you get through those days where you felt completely bloated, uncomfortable, and you needed to eat, but you had no hunger whatsoever? How did you manage to go through those days, if you ever had those days?
Oh, yeah, 100%. I would sometimes wake up and be like, right, that's it, you're back. No, you're not doing this anymore. Stuff it. You've lived without it for 2 years. Your body will give it to you naturally. Blah 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 blah. And I was lucky that the sports dietitian that I worked with is really really well known. So and she worked with a girl that I really looked up to at the time, Natasha Ocean. She's a YouTuber.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, she's amazing, lovely girl. I went to Kenya with her, and I just remember looking at her and thinking, okay, if she can recover from this, then I can too. And that was kind of a lot of my motivation of like, I know that whatever the situation, this has helped so many people. And it was around that time that I would find people like yourself and other people on Instagram that have helped all of these women that through eating more, doing less exercise, and really working on their self-worth, that I'm like, what would mean that I'm so different? Like, why would it not work for me? So that I would walk every single morning. So I think even though we're asked to reduce our exercise, like, you don't have to do nothing. Like a morning walk really helped me. And also, like, there's two things. There's like a balancing of allowing myself my fear foods, because I really enjoyed that was that I would have Cadbury's cream eggs, and that was like a wow, like, oh my god, yeah, this is a reason to recover because I can eat this now, whereas previously that wasn't on my allowed list. And then on the flip side of like reminding myself, look, like, just because you're in recovery doesn't mean you have to eat unhealthy all the time. Like, you can still choose healthy foods. It's just about how much fuel you give yourself with those healthy foods. So rather than just a lettuce salad, for example, it was like all of these like quinoa and nuts and things like that added to it, that it was kind of like redefining what health meant for me. So yeah, I would say those four things. Remembering, look, it's happened for everyone else. Why would you be so different? Making sure that you eat your fear foods and actually enjoying them, but also reminding yourself that, like, you know, like, you can still be healthy. You don't have to just, because I think that, I don't know if you found, but that's often a fear. People are like, I don't want to have McDonald's 7 days a week. And it's like, no, we're not saying that. We're not saying that.
I get it all the time. And I am almost 40 years of age and I've never had McDonald's in my life. So because of different reasons, not related to my past disorder eating behaviors. So no, people don't need to eat McDonald's every single day if they want to recover. But as you said, it's a big fear out there. Like, I don't want to become a couch potato. I don't want to eat only junk food. And I'm like, well, don't then. And plus, what is junk food? Maybe let's call it fun food, just for a difference.
Exactly, yeah. And then of it, like I said, just moving, just making it, because then
Yeah.
I just getting outside and just moving my body just helps. Sometimes that might have been a run, sometimes that was a walk, and I would just kind of take each day as it came. Like, if you wake up and you really need to exercise, no one's stopping you. And I tried to say, like, there's nothing good or any, like, try in past times I would have thought this is good, this is bad. And when I first got into recovery, it was like, this is how you recover, this is how you don't recover. Whereas actually it's not like that. It's just, this is more beneficial and this isn't as beneficial. So if I wake up one day and I really, really had to do a workout, that's fine. That just might not be beneficial towards my recovery, but that doesn't mean it's bad.
No, absolutely.
Do you know what I mean? So I think it was just trying to rewire how my thought process and not being so black and white.
Beautiful. And also one last question, because I know that we are getting to the end of our conversation, but how is the, no, not at all, Chlo. I'm loving it. As said it before, I'm loving it. And the women of the Facebook group, they're going to love it as well. So good on you for sharing. How is your relationship with exercise at the moment?
Again, I just don't really think about it. I definitely, at the start of this year, actually, for the first time since I was about 15, I had to find some motivation to exercise. And
wow.
And that, do you know what? I've always, my best friend Zoe, she came to me maybe 2 years ago, no, maybe 3 years ago now, and was like, right, Chlo, I want to get into the gym. And I was like, okay, come join my gym. But my gym, at the time that I was training out of, was known as like, that was like the gym to go to. So for a bit of a beginner, it was quite nerve-wracking. So I was like, no, come. Did her full program. She was eating loads, like she really wanted to gain muscle, and she was the beginner. And I remember looking at her and thinking, God, I really want to start again. Like, I felt like I got so small that to gain any muscle and any shape, I was going to have to eat more, and there was no way I was going to be able to do that. But I was really exhausted. So it was like, so this is just me now. And I felt really stuck. This year, I looked and I was like, I've done it. I'm starting again.
Congratulations. That's a massive milestone.
Yeah, 100%. And people, I think, you know, there's always such stigma about starting again, about things, but actually there's so much beauty in being like a beginner again. And I've loved it. So now I train 3 days a week, which I schedule into my day, because having a business, I actually like that can be overtaken by the business. So I schedule it in. But if I have a meeting, today, for example, Fridays are the time that I work out. And it's normally around 7:30, but we're doing our interview and it doesn't matter. I won't work out today, or I might do it late, but I won't do it later because I've just washed my hair. So I'll probably do it at some point the weekend. Do you know what I mean? So now it's like, I like to have a schedule, but if I miss it, it's cool. Like it doesn't matter. And I honestly feel great.
And if you have to share any word of wisdom with all the women that are trying to recover and they're really struggling to increase their intake or decrease their exercise load, what would you say to them? I know I'm putting you on the spot, but
yeah, it's not forever.
beautiful.
I just said this journey isn't forever, and if that was like my mantra to keep me going, is this won't be forever. Once you've got it back, not only do you, like I said earlier, not only do you get your period back, but you'll find with those hormones kicking in, you get a better sex drive, you get better skin, you get better nails, you feel better in yourself, you get extra curves. And if you feel uncomfortable and you do overshoot it, don't worry, it's not forever. Like you will be able to exercise again, but we work on our mindsets and we work on fueling ourselves and things like that. So then when we go back to exercise, you too can be a beginner again. And there, honestly, I've loved being a beginner. Beginner gains is a thing. I lift one weight and I'm like, whoa, who's that?
Fantastic. And Chlo, I know that you are also a business owner and you have a beautiful journal, which is, can we call it an hypothalamic amenorrhea journal? Or I think that it's more than that. But would you like to share it with all the ladies?
Yeah, I've got one actually. I'll just grab one.
Oh, beautiful.
So this is, so I developed a journal because in recovery, journaling helped me so much. But when I first started, I really struggled to, really focus, get everything I needed to get. I didn't even know what I needed to get down. So I developed a journal basically
with the prompts.
With all of the prompts, and they're just really short, so that it can literally take you like 2 minutes. And it's just things that you're grateful for, affirmations, 3 things I'd like to achieve today, I'm a big fan of dream journaling. I believe that our dreams are our subconscious talking to our conscious. So if we remember them, then there's probably like a little message in there for you. Or if you see, I actually found that I was having like repetitive dreams during recovery, and I'll quickly tell you the story if you don't mind. It was a repetitive dream of I was going into my A-level exams, and I hadn't revised at all, but I was just going to go and do it, and I had like no time. So even though I had my exam say next week, I would be choosing to go to the gym instead of going to my revision, and I just like knew nothing. And I was having this, I want to say maybe once, twice a week for about 5 weeks. And then about 2 months later, I had a dream where I had revised and I rocked up to the exam and I nailed it, and I haven't had that dream since.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and so that's why I think there's so much power in just like noticing like those patterns in your dream, because as soon as I started to write it down, I was like, hang on a second, I've had that one before. And then it was like when I wrote down, I was like, oh my God, I've done it. I feel like I've completed the dream.
I may have to start then. I may have to start to pay attention to my dreams, because I know that I have lots of dreams every single night, but you forget them, you don't write them down. I'm going to start writing them down, and then I'm going to send them to you so you can interpret them for
I
me.
can analyze them. Yeah. And then there's like just like a little like dissections for your food that just helped me keep track, just to make sure that I was eating. And then I've got an evening page, which is just like the reflection of the day. So it's like one thing you enjoyed, one thing you laughed at, and one thing you did for someone else. And that was a reminder to me that even in like some of my most stressful days, there was something that I enjoyed and there was something that I laughed at. And that just really helped me be mindful. Then further on from that, I've got like daily, at the start of the month, goal pages, monthly reflection pages, new moon and full moon pages. And this is literally my baby. We've just, it's a 3-monther. So we've just come into March will be the end of like the first one. And it's been my absolute baby. Yeah, I love them.
Fantastic. So I'm going to share your baby with all the girls out there, and also your links for social media. So you're very active on Instagram, and I love your page. So I'm going to add your links to your website, to your social medias, and to where people can get the journal down below. So thank you so much for being with us tonight. I feel that I can talk to you for basically the next 2 hours and a half. So maybe we have to reschedule another conversation for next time. And
I'd love you to come on to my podcast.
I would love to. Anytime that I have an excuse to talk about women's health, hypothalamic amenorrhea, hormones, and sharing stories. I didn't even know that you had a podcast now that you mention it. What's the name of it?
The Female Feel Good Club.
I'm going to subscribe as soon as we stop talking. All righty, my love. Thank you so much. And I'll see you next time.
See you soon.
Bye. Bye.